And what if everything you thought you knew about history was wrong? In this episode of History Got It Wrong, we're exposing 5 of the most viral myths ever told, from royal lies and fake discoveries to a bookshelf bombshell that might just rewrite literature as we know it. Oh, and that last myth, it fooled the entire world. Let's get started. The phrase "let them eat cake" is one of history's most infamous quotes, supposedly uttered by Marie Antoinette when told the French peasants had no bread. The image of a callous queen, indifferent to her people's suffering, has echoed for centuries. But where did this story really come from? In reality, there is no evidence Marie Antoinette ever said those words. The phrase first appeared decades earlier in the writings of philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who attributed it to an unnamed great princess. During the French Revolution, revolutionaries weaponized the quote to inflame anger against the monarchy. Marie Antoinette was unpopular, but she was also a scapegoat for France's problems. Historians now agree the cake story was pure propaganda, designed to turn public opinion against her. In truth, she supported charity work and was far more complex than the villain history made her out to be. So next time you hear "let them eat cake," remember it's a myth that shaped a queen's legacy and changed the course of history. Now, let's cross the Atlantic to another legend, the story that Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492. For generations, textbooks celebrated Columbus as the first European to set foot in the New World. But the truth is far more complicated. The idea that Columbus discovered America ignores the millions of indigenous people already living there and overlooks earlier European visitors. The myth persisted because it fit a narrative of exploration and conquest that suited colonial powers. In fact, Norse explorer Leif Erikson and the Vikings reached North America nearly 500 years before Columbus. Archaeological discoveries at Lansox Meadows in Newfoundland proved the Vikings built settlements there around the year 1000. So why did the Viking story get overshadowed? For centuries, their voyages were dismissed as legend until 20th century excavations confirmed the truth. Today, historians recognize that the Americas were a crossroads of cultures long before Columbus arrived. Columbus never set foot on the mainland of North America. Meanwhile, indigenous civilizations like the Maya, Aztec, and Iroquois were thriving with rich cultures and histories of their own. The myth of discovery erased their stories for generations, and what if even the Vikings weren't the first? Some theories suggest other ancient peoples may have crossed the Atlantic: Phoenicians, Chinese explorers, and more. While much of that remains debated, there's one story that stands out. It's bold, it's mysterious, and if it's true, it means an African empire may have reached the Americas centuries before Columbus ever set sail. The theory comes from Mansa Abubakari II, a Malian emperor who allegedly abdicated his throne in the 1300s to explore the Atlantic with a fleet of ships. While concrete proof is scarce, intriguing clues exist. Pre-Columbian sculptures in the Americas with African features and reports by Columbus himself of seeing black-skinned people. Already in the New World, it's one of those stories that challenges what we think we know and reminds us that African history may have shaped the world in ways we've barely begun to understand. Now, from sea voyages to literature, could the most famous playwright in history not have written his own work? William Shakespeare, the genius behind Hamlet, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet. But did he really write them? Some scholars argue that the man from Stratford-upon-Avon didn't have the education or experience to pen such masterpieces. Theories suggest the real author might have been Edward de Vere, Francis Bacon, or even a team of writers. There's no smoking gun, but enough ambiguity to raise questions. For now, Shakespeare still gets the credit, but the mystery endures, and now, the myth that fooled millions. A man, a kite, and the invention of electricity. We all know the image: Ben Franklin flying a kite in a lightning storm, key attached, discovering electricity. Epic, right? But it probably didn't happen. Historians now believe the experiment was more theoretical than literal, and Franklin himself may have exaggerated or mythologized it later. Besides, electricity was already being studied in Europe. Franklin advanced our understanding, but he didn't discover it with a kite. Still, it made for one electrifying story. So Marie Antoinette was misquoted. Vikings beat Columbus, Africa may have sailed west, Shakespeare's authorship questioned, and Franklin's kite more myth than fact. Which of these blew your mind the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you haven't seen how this all started, rewind to episode 1 where we bust myths about Napoleon's height, Viking helmets, and the real story of the Salem witch trials. Don't forget, subscribe and hit like if you love uncovering what history got wrong. See you next Wednesday for episode 7. Ancient rituals, fake tombs, and maybe even a missing queen.